Well, hello everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back. We are for our going into our fifth one actually. Literacy Enrichment PD today. We do have one more left, and that one will be April 14th. And yes, there is a kind of a gap in between time. As I had explained before, we have spring break coming up. We have testing going on in schools at the beginning of April. And then I know some schools, when I got on calendars to look at how this was going to play out these last couple of months, I know some of you have some PDs coming up as well as yourself, like school PDs. So there's that kind of the big gap there. But welcome back. Today we're going to do, it's going to be interesting today. I have some, it's just activity filled information for you today. Hopefully when you walk away today, you will have some activities that you can get started right away in your program, or it will spark some ideas to get activities going. So as the slide says, ready, set, go. Let's see, get what I need to get here. As always, the sessions are set up to encourage participation. Again, if you have not put your name, go ahead and do so. Definitely utilize the chat box. Today you'll have many opportunities to do that. And then again, if you need to step away anytime, that is okay. Feel free to do that. Just make sure that you're considerate of others and turn off your video and sound. Also, again, some of you may be using this as a working lunch. That is quite all right. Feel free to do that. So we are going to just take a moment here and step back a little bit. And I like doing reflections. I think reflections are good. Reflections can help us look at things in a way that we may have not looked at them before. This particular reflection, what I want you to do is just kind of think back to all the sessions that we've done, and we've been doing this since October, and list a couple of takeaways or any aha moments that you got from those sessions. Okay. And then as you're also doing that, think about how those moments have benefited you along the way this year. Okay. Or there are moments where you're like, oh yeah, hey, we could do that in programming. And then you were able to go back and
Okay, I'm gonna go eat a
implement that. Were you able to use those moments to just kind of reflect on yourself and see where you are in the process? I'm going to go ahead and give you some time to do that. So I'm going to keep my mouth closed and let you reflect on that. And then we'll come back and share. Okay. And keep writing. You can keep writing. You don't necessarily have to stop if you're in a thought or you still want to keep writing. Feel free to do that. Anybody care to share any takeaways or aha moments, and then how those moments have benefited you? If you don't want to say it out loud, you can put it in the chat box if you want to. We must be all on lunch. Got the sandwich or the carrot in the mouth and going like, oh, wait a minute, hold on.
I will go ahead and share. This is Tara.
Hello.
Hi, I can get my picture on here. If you give me a second, there we go. Okay, so I actually shared these 3 points after our last meeting with our superintendent. We are fortunate that we're keeping Barb Schmitz in our district, but she's going to be leaving the after school program and we're going to be hiring someone different.
Oh.
And but she'll still be able to help with things, but won't be the actual director for us. So
Hi, this is Barb. I'm here.
Okay.
I do want to tell you that we started the day with no internet and it has been so sketchy all day. We had to run around, take, attendance differently. So I apologize. I know, and I appreciate Tara, but I think that that's what's happening here.
Okay.
And it's out district wide. We don't understand what's happening. I'm with a little guy right now. And he doesn't even have to Zoom a class because there's no internet. Do you want to say hi, Cameron?
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
Life
Okay.
is not that bad when you're in 4th grade and there's no internet. It's just the rest of us. So
Okay. Thank
sorry.
you.
I'm sorry for the inconvenience from Owine.
No, you are absolutely okay. Thank you for that. Okay, well, we'll wait till she gets, or when she comes back on, she can hop in. Anybody else want to chime in there? Want to share?
That's why I'm going to take my picture off because I think the internet will last longer if I don't have my picture on.
No problem. And I think this is Tara coming in now.
yeah, sorry, when I got to school this morning, we had no internet.
That's what Barb was saying.
Yeah, so, oh, Barb, you're on now. I didn't see
Okay,
you.
we could do this. We could do this.
So the ideas that I shared that I thought would be really beneficial that I've gotten from here is, first of all, to just create a format that's simple and easy for people to put their lesson plans on. Then you have something to go off of when you're incorporating all these great ideas that you've been showing. The second one I really loved that you mentioned was doing a database online so that all these great ideas can be in one place for people to be able to see and access and maybe give people ideas on what to teach or to go with. And then just to incorporate the literacy activities, it doesn't even have to be your whole session time, but showing them the love of reading and all the different activities that you can bring in with it are so hands-on. So,
All right, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Anyone else? Because then if not, I'm going to go ahead and move forward. And again, thank you, Barb and Tara. I know it'll probably be sketchy for you guys as we continue to move forward. That is okay. If you got to pop off and on, I understand. Okay, well, moving forward. So just kind of going back to what we talked about at the beginning of our sessions, we talked about what literacy is, and we actually talked about the evolution of literacy today. We had talked about it was the ability to read and write, but now as it has evolved, and we talked about, what practitioners and researchers and educators, there's another piece that is getting added to that, and that's that comprehension piece, and really the speaking and listening piece. And really, and for the purpose of understanding oneself and the world. So literacy is allowing for folks to be able to interact with the world and also understand themselves so they can do that. Um, this slide right here, we could do fine. I mean, there's all sorts of different subcategories of literacy. We have financial literacy, we have technology, we have, oh my, business. I mean, there's just so many subcategories of literacy on that one. Literacy enrichment is, now we're actually going to break it down into the enrichment piece. And this is something that has evolved over the course of the 3 years that I've done this workshop, right? So the first one is providing complementary learning opportunities. And that really means is that now we're taking our learning opportunities, looking at what they're doing in the school and trying to bring those over or complement what they're doing in the school arena. Or even it could be complementing those opportunities when they're out in public, when they're out having our community partners come in and complement what's going on in their world. The second one is, as I always say this, we are developing and reinforcing basic literacy skills. And of course, we're developing and reinforcing other skills outside of the literacy piece too. But when we're bringing in those activities where we have kids that are on different levels, so we're either developing something that they either lack, there's a gap somewhere, or we're reinforcing what they already know, okay? To make those skills stronger, to build a foundation so that they can move on to the next step. The next one on there is engaging youth in ways it'll foster lifelong learning. And when I say lifelong learning, folks, I'm talking about outside of your program. When they leave your program for the day, they're still learning. They're getting those skills, and they're taking that knowledge and skills and they're applying it to what is going on outside of your program. Lifelong learning. When they graduate from your program, because they graduate, out of age, they age out, as I would say, of your program. They're still learning. They're still taking those skills, that knowledge, and they're applying it again to their outside world. Okay. And then I found this nice, lovely quote here by Paulo Freire. He's actually a Brazilian educator and philosopher. And it says, literacy is an active phenomenon. Its power lies, excuse me, I've got a computer problem here. Lies not in a perceived ability to read and write, but rather in an individual's capacity to put those skills to work in shaping the course of his or her own life. Right, kind of let that sit for a moment. It's not the ability to read and write, it's whether they're able to take those skills, that knowledge, and shape it to the course of their own life. And this was written way before my time. But I do want to compare it to this one right here for the purpose of understanding oneself and the world. So those two fit hand in hand with each other. Any thoughts on those two slides? Comments? I am going to say this, today's workshop, I have set it up to where feel free to comment, feel free to jump in. Any thoughts? As I said before, this is a workshop. Today is nothing but activities, and I am open to anybody's comments and thoughts, ideas. Hopefully this will spark some things for you folks. Okay, moving on. Now we're actually going to get into the activities. I like this picture. If we're looking at literacy and enrichment, a lot of the activities that we do, a lot of the things that we bring into our program, if we start on that first rung, it's reading, vocabulary, and grammar, that language arts piece, pretty much. And then if we go to the next step, we're doing comprehension and writing. The third step, we now provide hands-on activities. And then, of course, that last step, we see the success of all three of those put together. So the first activity, this can be a standalone activity if you want it to be. This can also be a themed activity like Iowa Days, Iowa Pride. If you have summer programming, you can also do this activity in real time. But this activity kind of goes along what I had last session. I had brought in the Winter Olympics. I thought I would do something for Iowa and do RAGBRAI. And the way that this is set up, it's set up for elementary, but you can tweak it for middle school, high schoolers. Okay. I also have a setup of what staff will do, what kids will do, and then we have activities. So let's dive in. So staff will discuss the history of RAGBRAI. 6 or more facts also include the Missouri and the Mississippi River because we actually ride between those rivers. Actually, at the beginning, they put their front tires in the Missouri, and then when they're in, I think they put the front tires in the Mississippi River. And I think at some point in time between those rivers, they also have like where you can jump in. I mean, there's a lot of activities they do with those 2 rivers as well. We know that RAGBRAI is an acronym, and just getting kids having that Iowa pride of, this is something that is big. This is something that people come from all over, not just the United States, but all over the world to participate in. The next one underneath staff will choose different timelines to discuss. And then, kind of picking some pieces from that timeline. This is RAGBRAI's 49th year. So folks, we're going back to the 1970s with RAGBRAI. And taking some of those timelines and discussing. And if you do this with middle school and high schoolers, oh my gosh, you can go crazy with the timelines. You could talk about like the prices during that time. You could talk about the food. You could talk about what people were wearing. I mean, you can go really crazy with the timelines. And then discuss interesting facts about each town. The list that you see here is actually the 2022 bike route. So they will start at Sergeant Bluff and then they will end at Lansing. Okay, and just go through and talk about the different towns. Again, with the older kids, you can go crazy with that. Okay, kids will map out or color the towns of the bike route. With the older kids with middle school, high school, you can actually give them a map of Iowa, have them look up those places on the map. If you want to throw some math in there, you can have them, okay, what's the distance from this city to the next city, or what's the distance from the whole entire route? Just different things that you could do. Again, writing down facts about each town as you're going and discussing the facts, the kids are writing them down. And this would be grade 2nd grade on up. Your kindergarten and 1st grade, you'll just have that discussion. If you can find YouTube videos that talk about the town, that would be great too. Okay. And then the activities. This is a short list. It does not have to be these actual activities. They can make a bike out of various materials. So you can have it where the little kids, your younger kids can do a 2D bike, where the older kids make a 3D bike out of materials. You can also bring somebody from the community that it like a bike shop and have them talk about the bikes, maybe bring in a bike. Okay. The next one is make castles out of sand, clay, Play-Doh. This actually goes towards Ida Grove, which is known for their castles. I've never been there, but I got on and was looking at pictures and I was like, oh, I may have to make a trip just to Ida Grove because a lot of their structures is, a lot of their buildings is like castle structures, castle. The next one is take a trip to the local historical museum. Everybody loves a field trip. Going to the historical museum. Everybody loves the field trip. Invite the fire or police department to come in and talk about bike safety. They could talk about helmet safety. I mean, you can have them. I'm sure that they probably have their own information that they give when they come in and talk about bike safety. Again, bringing the community in. You can also have your person who is works at a bike shop talk about bike safety. And then the last one I have on there is like watch snippets of the movie Music Man, or you can watch the whole movie. Our Mason City native is Meredith Wilson, and he actually did the song of Music Man. To the Music Man. Another thing that I just thought of too is that if you, especially middle school, high schoolers, and you may even have some in elementary, but if you know people who have been on any of the RAGBRAIs, bringing them in and speak. And I know some of us are still kind of doing the CDC guidelines where we're not allowing people to come in. You could do this virtual. You could have them get some pre-questions and send out, and then they do it virtual. Any questions on that particular activity? Or any comments, thoughts, ideas, want to add? Like I said, this workshop is going to be open for people just to chime in, to jump in if they want to. Okay. The next two slides are middle school and high school literacy enrichment. I wanted to put this in here because sometimes when we get up with our older kids, literacy enrichment is going to be quite different than if we do it in elementary. There are things that we're going to have to do to engage so that we can engage the kids a little bit more. And I just kind of threw some activities together that you could do in your program. So one of them is like the easy to do recipes. Does not require like the no-bake cheesecake or cookie bars. It does not require you having to use any type of microwave or any type of oven. You can teach them how to do turkey chicken wraps or pinwheels. And then there's simple snacks. You can, and everybody loves yogurt parfait or trail mix. And the thing about this, like I said, these are easy recipes. We're kind of like, well, what's the literacy part? Well, they have to look at the recipe, have to determine what their ingredients are, and then they have to read through the steps of putting these things together. And with that, once you've done that a couple of times, you can actually ask the kids, okay, what is your favorite recipe? Write it down, and then we'll make a recipe book for our class. Okay. Again, easy to do recipes. This is just a short list.
Hey, Barb Schmitz.
I think she.
Is she there still? In case she's not here, I will start talking. But Barb, if you're here, go ahead and jump in.
Mm-hmm.
Our high school after school camp did a crock pot camp.
Oh, okay.
And it was really awesome. They had crock pots donated that the students actually got to keep. And then they made the recipes and then they took them home to their families. But they took a field trip down to the grocery store to show them how to compare prices when you're buying ingredients and things. And this has been really helpful and beneficial because some of these kiddos don't have the best role models at home on how to cook a meal. So this was absolutely fantastic by our high school after school
Wonderful.
camp.
Yes, wonderful. And actually, that's kind of why, that's one of the reasons why I threw this in there, is because yes, I've been in environments where I worked with kids where they were actually the ones that cook the meals at home. Or, mom is doing something else and they're hungry, and these are simple things that they can put together. I love the crock pot one. I may have to
Yeah.
get you on that one.
Yeah, I haven't talked specifics with it. Barb would know more, but it was fantastic. And it was all easy
Yeah.
recipes, like you said, and it wasn't things with out of the ordinary ingredients. I mean, it was common
Right.
ingredients that they could go and find and be a part of and do it again when they weren't in the actual camp. So
Exactly. Yeah. And ingredients that you would find at a food pantry or, in your pantry at home. Yes. Oh, I love that. Oh, I have to get with you guys on that one.
and they had a really cute name for it, but I can't think of what the name was, like Off My Crocker or something. I don't know, but it was really a catchy tune as well too. So
Nice. The next one is a news reporter or detective. So what this one is talking about, the 5 W's and H, the who, what, when, where, why, and how. For some of our kids, you may have to kind of do some pre-work with that part. They may not know the 5 W's and H. So just kind of building that foundation. And then what you would do is that you would give them a newspaper article, have them go through and find that information, and then they get to rewrite the news. Or if it's a detective style news, they can summarize the case or rewrite the case, and then they have to report that to the group. Okay. So you have reading going on, literacy, writing, discussion, and then with middle school and high schoolers, it's nice to get them in to practice doing, what's the word I'm looking for? I just had it in my head. Presentations, because that's when they take speech class, that's one of the things that they have to do in speech class. The next one is poems and lyrics. So just getting some poems, lyrics for them to read or listen to. And then of course have some questions that check for understanding. And most of the time it's going to be reflective questions. Kind of, how did you feel? How did this make you feel? What's the message you got? Things like that. And then having some type of connection activity that goes with that. The last one on this slide is book talks. And hopefully we all know what book talks are. It's just like a short report to get other people to read a book that either you're interested in, that you are, maybe you're in, that you read and you want other people to read, or that you're actually interested in. This could be done in like a group discussion format where you have kids bring their books in, and then you have guided questions that you ask. And then if you want to be on the creative side, you could create a commercial or movie trailer. I think book talks are really good, especially with our kiddos that actually read, that we have kids that read books. And a lot of the time we spend more time looking at the kids that are low readers, that are struggling readers, and not really give time to those who actually read, okay, that are coming in. And I met several kids that read 5 books at a time. And I'm like, how do you do that? I can't even focus on one, but you're reading 5 books at a time. Just kind of letting those kids shine. Okay, the next slide, still middle school, high school. Reading or listening to various murder mystery plays. My favorite ones are Agatha Christie and the Sherlock Holmes plays. It doesn't necessarily have to be murder mystery, but some type of mystery play, because this allows for conversation, allows for discussion, allows for you to stop in certain areas and ask, well, what do you think is going to happen? They can use inference. They're predicting using prediction. I mean, there's a lot of things that you could do with this. You can also create your own mystery. You know, if you have a staff that's very creative, you can have them do that, or you can have the kids create their own. Okay. Yeah, I worked in an alternative program, and I actually got, and in my class, I had 7th through 12th graders. And we had to do our reading. We had to do like our 20-minute reading every day. And I actually had the boys, and there was boys now, actually had the boys listening to Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express. It was pretty cool. And they actually enjoyed it. So yeah. The next one is games. So there's all sorts of different games out there that work on vocabulary, that work on language arts. You got Scrabble, Bananagrams, you got like Trivial Pursuit, Jeopardy, Mad Libs. I love Apples to Apples. I got hooked on that when I was working in middle school, Apples to Apples. But there's all sorts of different games that you can incorporate as well. And then the last one on this slide, yes, I snuck this one in, financial literacy. Because we could do vocabulary building. You could talk about credit, savings. I mean, there's a lot of words out there that we could talk about, net and gross income, earnings, a lot of things that we could do with the vocabulary building. You can put money management in there and talk about money management as well. And then we have board games that are out there that also help with financial literacy that make things fun, like Payday, Life, and Monopoly. I love Payday. Love, love, love Payday. That's actually a pretty cool game to play. Any thoughts or ideas on these 2 slides?
I feel like I do a lot of talking here. Sorry, Teresa, it's
No,
Tara.
no, you're fine.
I hate to
No,
leave
you're-
you hanging there. So
No, you're fine.
one thing that we have is we have a green screen that a teacher earned through a grant. And for part of her school year, they did a PBIS and did the news broadcasting from there. So they also got the technology piece in where you could build in your background and you could pretend you're the actual news presenter. And then you could also research the background pictures to put up on the green screen. And then this is something then that they were able to share with their families and share out with the district and things too. So if you have a green screen available, that might be a great way to do some of this as well.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. And again, these activities with middle school and high school, we kind of have to go a little bit beyond what we would normally do in elementary, just to get our kids engaged, to get them engaged and to keep them engaged. Okay. There are some things that you probably saw here that you can also do at the elementary level, and that's perfectly fine as well. So we are going to actually play, our online categories. So if you could find a piece of paper and pencil or writing utensil. And this is an online one. This automatically does it. So in this box right here, you have the letter, you have the time, and you can change it, the time, and then you push play. You could do, if you want more than 12 categories, you could do more or you could do less. That is up to you. Nice way if you want to incorporate technology into your class. If you have a projector, you could put this up, project this up on the screen, or you can use a smart TV, connect your computer to the smart TV and do it this way. But we're going to quickly play this game. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play, and off you go. The letter is A. And don't worry about number 12. For some reason, I cannot make that bigger. So don't worry about number 12. Just do 1 through 11. Got 30 seconds. Got 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. And then if you notice that when it gets down, it'll blacken everything out. And then if you hit OK, it'll open it up. When I play this, I usually have certain ones that I star because I'm like curious to know what the answers are. Just some funny things going on. Like the animals in books or movies, I would ask that question. Oh, items in a suitcase that start with an A. That would be interesting. Farm animals, that would be interesting thing as well. This is also one of the things that you could do at a family literacy night. You could, again, project this up on the screen or wherever you have your literacy nights, and then have the families do it together and see what you get. This can be like an opening activity. Yep, a fun activity, yep. Your opening activity for your family literacy night. Any questions about that particular one? Like I said, it's called, I just do online categories, and it's the Swell Garfield one. Okay, moving forward. All right, we're gonna actually do this one as well. So this is the poems and lyrics activity. This particular one that you see up here, you can go down to 4th and 5th grade. But depending on the content that you have to be careful with that. So if I'm doing Edgar Allan Poe, or if I put Shakespeare in there, I will not probably go down to elementary. I probably will keep that probably higher middle school and definitely high school. Like I said, just with the content and just kind of the development of where people are at. But this is the poem. Again, it could be Shel Silverstein, any poems from A Light in the Attic and Where the Sidewalk Ends is awesome poems, and then any lyrics you have. This activity actually starts with a vocabulary builder. So we would talk about mood and tone. I would go over the definition. Mood is feeling or emotion felt, and then give some examples. And then tone, the author's attitude towards a subject. And we are actually going to listen to the song Fly Like an Eagle, which this one is by Seal. I chose this one specifically because there is a different tone and mood to it when he sings it versus the Steve Miller Band. Okay. So we'll listen to it and then we'll come back and process through the questions. Hopefully you can hear that.
think I better get up. Time is on slipping into the future. Time is on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future. So I wanna fly like an eagle to the sea. Fly like an eagle, make my spirit carry me. I wanna fly, fly right into the future. I wanna feed the babies, but can't get enough to eat. Wanna shoot the children, no shoes on their feet. I wanna house people living in the street. Oh yeah, there's a solution. Let me fly like an eagle to the sea. Fly like an eagle, let that spirit carry me. I wanna fly. Oh yeah, fly right into the future. Time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future. Time flies down, time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future. Time flies down, baby. Oh, love, love. I'm flying, oh. Oh yeah, yeah. You better get up. Down, baby. I wanna fly like an eagle to the sea. Fly like an eagle, let my spirit carry me. I wanna fly.
So just kind of coming back. I know some of you was out there getting your boogie on, just shaking to the music, getting the feel there. So the questions that we have is, and you do not have to answer these out loud. How did the song make you feel? What do you think is the main focus of the song? And are there any lessons that you can pull from the song that can help you in real life? And then I would ask for the kids to explain. And then, of course, giving them time to do this. If I do this type of activity, this is something that I would actually have them create a journal and get some paper, put some paper together, or however you want to do that. Let them decorate the journal. And this is something that we would bring out when we do these type of activities. So that at the end of, if we're doing this in a summer program, at the end of the summer or end of our school year program, they're able to take these home and use them to reflect on. They have some type of keepsake of journaling. And then the connection activity that I have is that they'll be able to create their own lyrics. So they can create their own lyrics. They can draw a picture or create a dance move based on how the song made them feel. So again, doing that connection activity. So it's connecting what you're doing to their world. And again, this creates that lifelong learning that we want them to be, that's knowledge and skills we want them to be able to have when they leave our program. Any thoughts or comments or ideas on this particular one? And again, any music that you use is fine. Just kind of have to be careful when the content of the music or content of the poems. Again, like I said, this could go all the way down to 4th and 5th graders. We just have to be careful of what the content is. Okay, I'm gonna keep on moving. The next activity is literacy. And this is something that, again, this goes through K through 12th grade. This is something that is done in the schools. So it's like, well, let's bring it over to after school programming as well. And what theme literacy is just really a collection of books that can either based on subject matter, themes. If you really want to get into it, it could be authors, it could be genres. It's just really a collection of books that you have. The format that you have it in is either it's going to be some type of reading, writing, discussion, and then you have connection activities with that format. If you do choose to read, you only read several books from the group. You're not reading the whole entire collection. You select several books that you're reading, and then you always have the checking for understanding, comprehension. And again, that could be in a reading format, could be writing, it could be discussion. Okay. And then with this, the theme literacy, the examples I have Under the Sea. So the first group of books, Shark Lady and Save the Ocean, is an Under the Sea theme. The next group that you see is an Inventor's Workshop theme. And then the last one is a sports or extreme sports. And this can also be set up as a station or stations if you want. Letting kids pick the themes that they want to maybe focus on for a week and then go from there. And then the staff is responsible for doing whatever activities or whatever goes on for that particular week.
There's also through the AEA, we have like the book flicks and all those connections. And they will do a pairing of a fiction and a nonfiction book as well, so that you're able to get these both types of literacy hooked together on different themes.
Yes.
So that's a really good resource.
Yes. Thank you. Yep. Heartland AEA. Yeah. And also the library too. Well, your local library should also help with this as well.
Yeah, our local library actually has started rubber banding together themed packets
Okay.
for kids to go down and pick up.
Yes. And again, this is across the board, K through 12th grade. This also helps if you like have well, it doesn't really matter, summer or after school programming. Again, you have a week where you're having a theme and you want to incorporate books. Again, you don't necessarily have to read the books, it's just having them there. Thank you, Tara. I also know too, Barnes and Nobles, they have a program where you're able to go in and do a tour of their facility. And I don't know if they're doing it now because of the whole and this pandemic that we're in. You're able to do a tour, and then there's a part, like there's like a 30-minute piece where they actually have theme literacy, where the kids are sitting down and they talk about things within that theme. So okay. Well, folks, we're going to actually take a quick short break. Let's do 5 minutes. I've been sitting here drinking tea. I need to take a quick break. I'm sure that some of you probably need to take a quick break as well. And then we'll come back, let's say at let's make it 1:05. We'll just add 3 more minutes. Let's make it 1:05 that we'll come back. Brittany, you can go ahead and continue. Before I continue to the last piece of this, which is going to be our read alouds and book clubs, any questions, comments, anybody want to add anything from the beginning until now? I know I've been asking that question over and over, but just want to make sure that I'm not missing anybody, missing any ideas that people have. Any thoughts? Okay. Let me go ahead and get into our last group here. Read alouds and book clubs with a twist. And notice that I have the word twist underlined, and I'll get to that part why I have it underlined. So reading and book clubs are for all ages. Everybody likes to be read to. Everybody likes to do book clubs. What they are is just reading and discussing a shared book. With both of them, you have questions that you kind of probe for understanding. See if people are comprehending the reading that you're doing. If people are with you, they're able to maybe tell you what the characters are in the story. They're able to give you what the plot or the main idea. So you're just asking comprehension questions for understanding. And then the twist part is, as I said before, as being a coach, we do a lot of reading, but we don't add the connection piece to what we're reading to the kids' world. So the twist is the connection activities, and these can be either mini activities, these can be projects or field trips. The second part of it, like the read aloud in a book club, some people are kind of like, well, what's the difference? The slight difference with a read aloud to a book club is with a read aloud, you are intentional about instructional practice. And instructional practices, kids are listening to you read. Usually when you're doing a read aloud, it's one person reading. It's usually a teacher or staff that's reading. And they're listening to your fluency. They're listening to, oh, okay, this person took just a small break because either they came to a period, they came to a comma. They're listening to your tone, your inflection. They're listening. And if you're one of those readers who kind of puts, a little character to your characters as you're reading, they're listening to that. You can also put in the thought process of the reader as well. That's one of the things that kind of gets missed as well. And what I mean by thought process of the reader is as you're reading, there are times where you may get excited about a part. There are times where your voice may go down because, this is not a good place, or this is, maybe some interesting things. Your body language changes as we read. Sometimes we don't think about that, but it does. The process of the reader also, you may get to a point in the story where you're going, well, what do you think's going to happen? What do you think? Oh my, this is interesting. Oh, I got to keep reading. Okay. So that's that instructional practice piece with the read aloud, and it's intentional. And most read alouds are children in chapter books. And then when you get into book clubs, this is usually done on an individual basis, or you can do it as a group. Book clubs allow for deeper discussion. Also, if you're doing book clubs, you may have that one person who reads, staff may be the reader, but you're not being intentional on that instructional practice. So there's kind of like, again, there's that slight difference between the two. And with some book clubs, people kind of do that popcorn method where you have one person read and then you jump to another person and jump to another person and have them read as well. Okay. Again, there's just that slight difference there. So today I'm actually going to share 2 processes that you can use to quickly put together some read alouds or book clubs. Okay. The first process is actually going to be based on a storybook, like a children's storybook, and that's 4 steps. And then the second process is based on a chapter book, and that's actually 3 steps. I had asked in the beginning this week if you have a book to grab a storybook. If you want to go ahead and grab that storybook, that would be nice. If not, I actually have some storybooks that you can use. So I'll kind of wait. If you have a storybook, go ahead and grab that storybook. If not, you can choose one of the 3 that I have up here. So we're actually going to go through a quick process in creating a lesson for a storybook, for a children's storybook. And as I said before, this is a 4-step process. So the first step is looking at your book, the cover page, and looking at your title. What are some questions that you can ask? Jot down some questions that you can ask. These questions, we're going to put them in the category of before reading. So these are our before reading questions. Before we even begin to read. Okay. The second step, now let's say we are reading our book, we're in the process of reading. If you know any of the stories that are here or you are familiar with the story that you have in front of you, what are some questions that you can ask while you're reading? What are some questions that you can ask? And in this piece, there may not be questions. So if you don't have any, that's okay. So we're reading our story. What are some questions that we can possibly ask while we're reading our story? So this step is called during reading questions. And I will say on this particular step, this is probably one of those steps where you would actually go through the reading. You would actually pre-read the story, and then you would formulate questions that way as well. Just again, checking for understanding. The third step. Okay, now we are done reading. We got through our story. What are some questions that you can ask after reading the story? So again, you're done reading the story. What are some questions that we can ask? And these can be questions that are just general questions, like who is the character of the story? Where did the story take place? You know, what are like two interesting pieces of the story that you liked? Things like that. And then we can get into even more deeper questions, like what was the author's main idea? What was the plot? What was the conflict? Okay. And then you can be really specific. And then the question, you can even get even more specific, asking questions that are actually directive of the book, of the story that they read. Okay. So this is step 3. This is after reading questions. And then the last step for this one, what are some activities that you can actually pull from your story? Okay. These can be activities. This can be in the form of a field trips that you can do. This can also be maybe you reach out to community partners to help you with the activities, but new potential community partners. What are some things that you can grab, some activities that you can grab from the story? And this is called the connection activities or the connection piece. These are your connection activities. And again, it's 4 steps. Folks, and we actually did that in like less than 10 minutes. So it's really these are quick steps that you can do. These are things that you could teach your staff to put together as a lesson using a children's storybook. Anybody care to share what their storybook was and any of the questions or things that they came up with? Again, this was a quick and easy process that you could teach your staff. They could take any children's storybook off the shelf and create a quick lesson. The thing that may take a little bit longer is, of course, the activities that come, the connection activities. And here's that process. Okay. Any questions on this particular process before I move to the last one? Thoughts, comments? Okay, gonna move to the last one. So the last one is a chapter book. So if you have a chapter book, go ahead and grab your chapter book or graphic novel. If not, I have 3 of them up here. And this one is a 3-step process. Okay. So the first step on this one is looking at your title looking at the cover page, as well as if have your own book, the little summary that they have in the back, looking at that as well. What are some themes that jump out at you? Okay. This is the part where we're going to now start kind of getting into our middle school, high schoolers, so that we can grab them in, keep them engaged. So what are some themes? And I'll give you an example. So Smile, Raina Teglemeier. I actually know the author. I actually like her books. Her books are based on a girl in middle school. So the theme for that would be like middle school. I smile in, I see braces. If we're looking at the smiley emoji, friendship maybe, or just happiness. Braces as well, we can get into self-esteem. So what are some themes or some topics that may jump out at you? I'm looking at the stars beneath our feet. Looks like a young gentleman, maybe in middle school, high school. We're talking about stars. Okay. Again, what are some themes or subjects that jump out at you? And then the second part of that's the first step is what are some questions, looking at your cover and your title, what are some questions that you can ask? Yeah. Okay, now moving to step 2. Step 2 is what's actually going to take some time. Because step 2 actually involves you doing some research. Because with chapter books, we know that things change from chapter to chapter. We also know that things change within the chapter. So it's going to be really hard for us to ask questions throughout our reading, stopping and starting and asking questions while we're reading. So we may write questions based on the chapter. So step 2 is really getting out there and doing research on the internet and getting comprehension questions. The majority of the chapter books that you've seen that we have, I guarantee you somebody has already done some type of lesson on it. Somebody's already done some type of book club. So it's just a matter of getting out there and utilizing those resources that are out there. You may find where somebody did a lesson on Genevieve Jones, the one-man band, and had questions. You go out there, get it. I'm not saying that you need to actually copy exactly what they did, but you're just grabbing resources and putting it together for your program. So step 2 is it's comprehension questions. You're creating chapter comprehension questions to check for understanding. If you have a staff who likes to read the books and create their own questions, hey, how about that? But this is the part that's actually going to take time. With the Smile, that's actually a graphic novel. So it's not necessarily done in chapters. It's kind of done based on pages. most graphic novels that I've seen, they usually do the questions based on pages or what's going on in the story. And then step 3, and this is the last step for this one. Looking at your book, looking at your story, what are some activities that you can pull out from your book? Okay. Again, activities could be field trips, they could be bringing in community partners. What are those activities? Making those connections. I was always wondering if somebody would do how to eat the book, How to Eat Fried Worms. How would you do an activity on that one? So again, here's another process, 3 steps. You could take any chapter book. This could be taught to your staff. Does not take, well, it will take some time, especially when you're looking for those comprehension questions for the chapters. That's what takes the most. But once you get into the process, once you figure out how this works for you, it goes pretty simple. Thank you. You can make the Jello worms with straws. Yes. And they put different things on top of them. And then because he was putting Worcester sauce on it. He was putting all sorts of different mustard, all sorts of ketchup. That's one of my favorite books as well. Any questions on these processes? Any comments? Thoughts? So you basically could take any book and turn it into a lesson. Just takes time. Again, with the chapter books, like I said, if you're going back to step 1, utilizing a theme, like coming up with a theme or coming up with some type of topic that is related to middle school, high schoolers, that will get those kids engaged. If you're talking about something that's geared towards self-esteem or geared towards courage, or, and that you have a book that goes with that, that's how we're going to get those folks engaged and bring them in. And then here's the process for that. Okay. Well, if there's no questions or comments or anything, thoughts, I'm gonna go ahead and this will be the end of our session for today. As I had said before, our next session and last session will be April 14th. If you have any ideas, if you have any activities or anything that you want me to do in that session, feel free to email me and I'll get it in there. Outside of that, I appreciate everybody coming. Have a nice day and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you.